There are many reports and anecdotal experiences suggesting that family members, even when physically distant, can sense each other's emotional states or critical events. For example, a mother might suddenly feel anxious and later discover that her child was in danger at that exact moment. A twin might feel unexplained sadness and later find out that their sibling suffered an accident. These events are often attributed to a form of telepathy or supernatural intuition. But a different perspective suggests a more biological and scientific mechanism underlying such phenomena. One possible explanation is that this connection arises from an invisible, subtle network based on shared genetic material. Instead of relying on spoken words or traditional communication, the body could be using its own biological signals, transmitted and received through the deep structures of DNA, to maintain a low-level, unconscious awareness among close blood relatives. DNA is often understood as a blueprint for building proteins and organizing the structure of living beings, but recent studies hint at its broader potential as an information storage and transfer medium. Within a family, the shared DNA sequences might form a kind of biological intranet, allowing information to pass non-verbally between individuals. These signals would not be transmitted through physical space in the same way as radio waves or cell phone signals, but rather through a more subtle field, perhaps related to quantum entanglement or bioelectromagnetic interactions that science has yet to fully understand. If this is the case, then it is possible that when something significant happens to one family member, their genetic network could vibrate or shift slightly, triggering unconscious emotional or physical responses in those genetically linked to them. This perspective reinterprets family intuition not as magic, but as a hidden capacity of biological systems. Families who share a high degree of genetic similarity would theoretically have stronger connections within this invisible network. Twins, who often report the strongest telepathic-like phenomena, are especially interesting in this regard. Their DNA is almost identical, so the biological resonance between them could be far more pronounced than between other types of relatives. Even between parent and child, or between siblings, the genetic overlap could be sufficient to allow occasional bursts of unconscious communication, especially in moments of high emotional intensity when the body's signals become stronger and more urgent. Furthermore, this idea opens the door to considering emotions not only as psychological states, but also as energetic events that leave impressions on the biological field. When a person experiences intense fear, sadness, or excitement, that emotional energy might interact with their genetic field in a way that slightly alters its vibrational signature. If the genetic field is indeed networked across family members, then others who share significant portions of that DNA might pick up on the disturbance, not consciously, but through bodily sensations, dreams, or sudden intuitions. The communication would be imperfect, filtered through the complex processes of the brain and nervous system, but powerful enough to sometimes produce meaningful coincidences. One particularly intriguing angle is that this network might not be limited by distance. Traditional communication methods require a medium, such as air, wires, or satellites. But if the DNA-based network functions on principles similar to quantum entanglement, then distance would become irrelevant. Just as entangled particles can affect each other instantaneously across vast distances, family members might remain linked through their genetic material, experiencing flashes of shared intuition regardless of how far apart they are. In this model, blood relations are not only connected emotionally and culturally, but physically and energetically, embedded in a shared lattice of biological information that transcends ordinary space and time. Of course, from a scientific standpoint, this idea remains highly speculative. Mainstream genetics does not currently support the idea of nonverbal communication through DNA. DNA is understood primarily as a static repository of information, not as an active transmitter. However, there are growing fields of research into biofields, biophotons, and subtle energy emissions from the human body that could one day provide mechanisms for such phenomena. If future research reveals that DNA emits or receives faint electromagnetic signals as part of its ordinary functioning, then the hypothesis of a DNA-based communication network among blood relatives could gain credibility. Until then, the mystery of why some families seem able to know or feel each other's experiences at a distance remains open. It is tempting to dismiss such stories as mere coincidence or the result of strong emotional bonds causing heightened sensitivity to subtle cues. Yet, the persistence and consistency of these reports across cultures and eras hint that something deeper could be at play. Reimagining family intuition as a form of biological network communication rooted in shared genetic structures gives a new layer of depth to these experiences and offers a fascinating bridge between ancient beliefs in telepathy and modern understandings of biology. In this way, we are invited to rethink what family connection truly means. It is not only the memories shared, the upbringing given, or the traditions passed down, but perhaps also a literal, invisible web of energy that keeps family members linked at a level far deeper than conscious thought. This view also emphasizes the sacredness of genetic bonds, not in a hierarchical or exclusionary way, but in a profound appreciation of the unseen architectures of life that bind human beings together across space and time. If we accept the idea that a nonverbal genetic network exists among family members, the next question is how exactly it operates. One possibility is that the body's natural electromagnetic fields, which are known to exist and are measurable through technologies like EEG and ECG, play a crucial role. Every living cell emits a very weak electromagnetic field, and DNA molecules in particular have been theorized to emit ultra-weak photons called biophotons. Although these emissions are extremely faint, some researchers believe that they could facilitate communication between cells and even between individuals under certain conditions. In a family group, the similar genetic structures might allow for greater synchronization of these bioelectromagnetic fields. When one family member experiences a significant emotional or physical event, the changes in their field could ripple outward, subtly altering the shared network and triggering reactions in others. This process would not require conscious attention. It would happen automatically at the physiological level, below the threshold of conscious awareness. A mother might suddenly feel uneasy without knowing why, or a sibling might experience a moment of inexplicable sadness, both reflecting a disturbance in the network rather than direct thought-to-thought communication. It is also possible that certain conditions enhance this communication. Emotional intensity, stress, or life-threatening situations might amplify the signals, making them strong enough to cross the biological noise that usually masks such subtle interactions. Similarly, individuals who are more emotionally attuned, sensitive, or empathetic might be better receivers within this network. Their nervous systems might be naturally more capable of picking up on these subtle field variations and translating them into feelings, intuitions, or even symbolic dreams. This could explain why not every family member experiences these phenomena equally, even among those with identical or similar DNA. Interestingly, traditional cultures often emphasize the power of family bonds and bloodlines, not only for social and political reasons, but also because of a deep, intuitive understanding of these invisible connections. Rituals honoring ancestors, blood oaths, and family ceremonies might have served, in part, to strengthen and reaffirm the energetic ties among kin. In a modern scientific context, these practices can be seen not just as symbolic, but potentially as activities that reinforce the shared biological resonance among relatives. Another important aspect is that this genetic network would naturally degrade across generations as DNA differences accumulate. A grandchild shares less genetic material with their grandparents than a child does with their parents, and thus the strength of the nonverbal connection might weaken over time. This could explain why people often feel the strongest intuitive bonds with immediate family members rather than distant cousins or ancestors. The signal weakens as the genetic overlap decreases, just as the clarity of a transmitted image degrades over long distances without amplification. Moreover, the idea of a DNA-based network raises fascinating possibilities about how health, emotions, and even thoughts might travel across biological lines. If emotional states can cause ripples through the genetic field, could positive emotions such as love, hope, and encouragement also be transmitted? Could a family member's resilience in the face of adversity subtly bolster others at a distance, providing unseen support during difficult times? While these notions are still speculative, they offer an inspiring vision of human connectedness, one that transcends ordinary language and social structures. Skeptics might argue that all such experiences can be explained through simple psychology, coincidence, or selective memory. After all, humans are pattern-seeking creatures who often connect unrelated events into meaningful narratives. However, the sheer volume and consistency of reports across different cultures, historical periods, and social backgrounds suggests that there may be more to these phenomena than random chance. While science has not yet fully explored or explained these possibilities, it remains open to new discoveries that challenge conventional models of communication and connection. The implications for society are profound. If human beings are interconnected at a genetic and energetic level, then actions taken by one person could, in subtle ways, influence others in their family system. It would suggest a deeper level of responsibility and care among relatives, as well as a greater appreciation for the invisible bonds that sustain human life. In times of crisis, understanding and nurturing these connections could provide emotional support even when direct communication is impossible. In moments of joy, the resonance of happiness might travel silently through the network, uplifting others without a single word spoken. From a broader philosophical perspective, the idea of DNA-based communication invites us to reconsider what individuality truly means. In Western thought, individuals are often seen as separate, autonomous units. But if a hidden network connects people on the basis of shared biological structures, then individuality becomes more fluid, more porous, more relational. Each person's emotions, thoughts, and actions ripple outward, influencing others in ways they may never perceive directly. Family, then, is not just a social construct or a matter of legal definition, but a living, breathing web of interdependent energies and resonances. It is also worth considering the darker possibilities. If negative emotions such as fear, anger, or despair can travel through the genetic network, then families burdened by trauma might carry subtle energetic scars across generations. This concept resonates with the emerging field of epigenetics, which studies how environmental factors can cause changes in gene expression that are heritable without altering the DNA sequence itself. Although epigenetics primarily focuses on biochemical mechanisms, the idea of emotional or energetic inheritance provides a complementary perspective. Families might not only pass down genetic codes, but also emotional imprints that shape the lives of descendants in hidden ways. Finally, this model challenges us to think about healing at a collective level. Healing one individual within a family could, theoretically, send positive ripples through the entire network, helping others to heal as well. Acts of forgiveness, compassion, and self-care are not isolated. They become part of a larger energetic tapestry. In this view, personal growth is not selfish, but deeply communal. By tending to one's own emotional and psychological health, a person contributes to the well-being of their entire genetic community, both living and yet to be born. Thus, the idea that family intuition stems from a DNA-based network of nonverbal communication transforms an ancient mystery into a modern frontier of exploration. It invites scientific inquiry, philosophical reflection, and spiritual appreciation all at once. Whether or not future science will confirm the exact mechanisms involved, the very possibility reminds us of how deeply interconnected all life truly is, not only through visible ties and conscious interactions, but also through the invisible threads woven into the fabric of our very being.